Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. As always, I'm Bryson Carver. Man, what a show we got today. They said the NBA plan was a bad idea. I beg to differ. That was awesome last night. I'm a Warriors fan. I could still sit here and say that was insane. Gonna get into, obviously, the Lakers and Warriors game. We're going to start the show with the first two topics going to be about that crazy game last night at the Staples Center. Also, going to talk about Wizards, Pacers tonight. Winner go home. Winner gets in the playoffs, the 8 seed. Loser, done. Your season's over. I'm actually having a pretty strong feeling about one team winning tonight. That game tips off at 8 o'clock, I believe, on TNT. Also, we have yet another instance of baseball looking old and outdated. I'll get into that later in the show. So this is going to be a fun one. So first of all, Lakers-Warriors last night, Staples Center, play-in game, by far the most hyped-up game for good reason of this new inaugural play-in tournament. It's LeBron James and the defending champion Los Angeles Lakers against his longtime rival, and it seems like buddy now, Steph Curry, and the Golden State Warriors, my Golden State Warriors. And first of all, let me just get this out of the way. I still don't think I've recovered from last night. That one hurt. That one hurt. And I'm not even going to hide from it. That one hurt. There's a lot to break down from this game. First of all, I think when you look, let's start with the Lakers because they were the victors in this instance. They won 103-100. And I'll get to LeBron's shot later on in the show. But when it comes to the Los Angeles Lakers and what they did last night, I feel like that first half, you can break down X's and O's. You can do this and that. It's as simple as this. Golden State wanted that game more in the first half than the Lakers did. I think the Lakers came in. They looked at Golden State as an 8 seed and nothing more than an 8 seed, not a team that had a former 2-time MVP and should be about to be 3-time MVP, even though it's likely not to happen. They looked at Golden State as a team with, some guys, okay, we're not scared of Draymond or Jordan Poole or Juan Toscano-Anderson or Andrew Wiggins, who had himself a great night last night, or Kent Bazemore. That was as lackadaisical of a first half as I've seen from a defending champion in a big, because this is a playoff game. I know that the stats don't count towards the playoffs. That was a playoff game last night. That did not feel like a in between a regular season and postseason game. That felt like a game 6 or a game 7 of a playoff game. That's what it felt like, and essentially that's what it was. But when you look at how Golden State in the first half, incredible defensive first half. I think at one point, the Lakers' top 3 scorers, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Dennis Schroeder, their top 3 scorers at one point were a combined 2 for 22 from the field. So under 10%. Actually, no, it's under 10%. So and Andrew Wiggins, by the way, on LeBron, I thought did an excellent job the entire night. Early in that game, you saw LeBron's trying to back him down. Wiggins blocks his shot. LeBron gets it back and has to put up a kind of a prayer from the corner, and it hits the side of the backboard. So Wiggins was excellent defensively. Draymond completely dominated Anthony Davis on the defensive end. And you look at Schroeder, who had a bad night all the way around. They actually benched him in the fourth quarter for Wesley Matthews because, simply put, Wesley Matthews was playing better defense than Dennis Schroeder was, which I figured, maybe Schroeder might come back and be on a minutes restriction, but that didn't seem to be the case. Coming off the COVID list, you think, maybe they're going to try and ease him back into it. I don't know, but certainly something to look out for if you're a Lakers fan. I will say this, if you are a Golden State fan like myself, if the same Golden State team that played last night and has played the last 2 weeks, had a 6-game winning streak coming into this game, obviously, came up short last night, but had plenty of good moments. If that Golden State team shows up tomorrow night against Memphis, and I'll get into that game against Memphis tomorrow on the show, they'll win by double digits. First of all, they already won by double digits on just this past Sunday. And again, I thought Golden State defensively might have played their best game of the season. The Warriors lost that game in the third quarter. You heard Steve Kerr say it. You heard Steph Curry say it. Golden State lost that game in the third quarter because A, they had double-digit turnovers in the third quarter alone, and B, they gave up 42 points in the first half. They gave up 35 in the third quarter alone. So the defense wasn't as good. They were loose with the basketball. That would be my only criticism of Steph Curry from last night, because Steph was, doing Steph things. I mean, 37 points, shot 12 for 23 from the field, shot over 50% for the field, 6 for 9 from 3, hit the buzzer beater right before the half with 3 Lakers on him. He was doing Steph Curry things. You kind of run out of superlatives for this man at this point. But when you look at the Warriors, you say, okay, we built a double-digit lead, and they got kind of lackadaisical at times in the third quarter. Now, fourth quarter, it's a back-and-forth seesaw battle, and as Steph Curry put it best, a great player made a big shot. An all-time great player made a great shot in LeBron James. And again, I'll get into his shot a little later. But if you're on the Warriors end and you're Steve Kerr, you're saying, hey, if we took the defending champs with LeBron James, with Anthony Davis, Dennis Schroeder, the whole crew. By the way, Alex Caruso gave him a huge boost off the bench, not just offensively, but I thought he did a pretty good job defensively on Steph. If you can sit back and say, okay, we built a double-digit lead, we played great defense, save outside that third quarter, we played great defense throughout the night, and it took a game-winning shot from 30-plus feet out to beat us, I think you're feeling pretty good if you're Golden State. Now, of course, you don't want to be in the situation they're in now where it's win or go home on Friday, obviously, or tomorrow night, I should say. But you say, okay, if we bring that kind of effort and that kind of intensity, we'll beat Memphis. No disrespect to Memphis. They had a really nice win last night against the San Antonio Spurs. But Memphis jumped out to, a 22-point lead in the first quarter. Dylan Brooks was dunking on everybody. And before you knew it, San Antonio was right back in the basketball game. And San Antonio, it definitely isn't as good as Golden State, and they're last in the NBA in three-point shooting. And Golden State has the greatest shooter ever, so that's kind of the difference there. But I think you have to be feeling, it sucks to lose the game. Certainly as a Warriors fan, like I said, man, it still hurts, man. I'm not gonna lie, that one, it took me a minute to get over that. That one sucked. But you have to say, okay, as long as we can take care of Memphis tomorrow night at home in our building. Our guys have championship experience. Steph, Draymond, Kevon Looney's been in some big games. Looney grabbed double-digit rebounds last night. You can say, okay, take care of Memphis. We can beat Utah. We can beat Utah. Donovan Mitchell's not 100%. Neither is Mike Conley. And if you make somebody else if Jordan Clarkson beats you, then he beats you. He's the sixth man of the year. But if you got to make Jordan Clarkson beat you, then it is what it is. But I think Golden State is a team that can win a series. I actually said on IG Live last night with my good buddy Barry from the All Even podcast. Check his show out. But I said I think the winner of last night's game was going to go to the Western Conference Finals, whether it be Golden State, whether it be the Lakers. Because I think either team was going to beat Phoenix in the first round, and either team was going to be either Portland or Denver in the second round. So that's kind of where I was going at there. So I think the Lakers go into the conference finals. I think. I'm not saying I know. I wouldn't be confident today. But if you're Golden State, I think you have to be feeling pretty solid about yourself right now. Now, on the Lakers end, obviously did not get off to the start you wanted to get off to. I think there are always two sides to the coin. It's kind of the classic glass half empty, glass half full. If you're a glass half full type of Lakers fan, you say, Bron scored 21, looked kind of limited at times. Anthony Davis got completely shut down by Draymond Green. Dennis Schroeder was terrible. Andre Drummond was virtually ineffective. And we still beat Golden State with Steph dropping 37 and then putting on an excellent defensive performance. Okay, that's a nice little warm-up for the playoffs. If you're on the glass half empty side, if you are a Los Angeles Lakers fan, you say, Andre Drummond, again, was a no-show. I'm not worried about Dennis Schroeder. I don't have any reason to be worried about him. He'll get acclimated back to, he'll get back into basketball shape. Obviously be on the COVID list for a week and a half, 2 weeks. You're going to come back. You're going to be a little rusty. He'll be fine in the long run. But you say, okay, AD look hobbled and wanted no part of Draymond Green, who's much smaller at 6'7". He wanted no part of Draymond. And LeBron looks limited. Not limited in the shots. He could take some of those shots he was missing the first half. He was just missing them. Some of that wasn't necessarily great defense. It's like, LeBron was just missing those shots. But he still does not look 100%. I don't think we're going to get, unfortunately, LeBron at 100% during the playoffs. I just don't. LeBron said it himself. He said, I don't think I'll be 100% the rest of my career. Now, I don't know if that's true, but I definitely don't think he'll be 100% during the playoffs. So that's the two sides of the coin you can look at if you are a Lakers fan. But all in all, it was a good win for them. Definitely a heartbreaking loss for Golden State. I do believe they will beat Memphis tomorrow. I think it'll be close, and then Golden State will kind of pull away in the fourth quarter. But excellent basketball game. It was the game of the year. To this point, I'm sure we'll get some amazing games in the playoffs as we always do. But to this point, with the stakes the way they were, with the history between LeBron and Steph, defending champion Lakers, a team in Golden State that's won 3 of the last 6 championships, that was the game of the year. I don't think there's a question about it. So, NBA play-in tournament, hey, it was pretty boring out east. We got one more game in the Eastern Conference tonight between the Pacers and the Wizards, and I'll talk about that later on the show. It was kind of a dud in the Eastern Conference to start the play-in. Had people kind of questioning, is this really that good of an idea? But out west, pretty good game between the Spurs and the Grizzlies, and a flat-out awesome game between the Dubs and the Lake Show. Now, let me get to LeBron James and that shot he made. And it's funny. I'm one of the rare Warriors fans that is I wouldn't say a LeBron James fan, because we all know, listen, I love LeBron. It's his fans that get on my nerves. It's his fans that just, he's what's the old Stephen A. Smith saying? He passes gas and they think it's perfume. It's something like that. But the point is, like, LeBron James fans gets on my nerves because, they love him, but they think he's incapable of doing any wrong, which of course he's imperfect like the rest of us. But I'm one of the rare Warriors fans that gives LeBron credit where credit is due. I'm one of the rare Warriors fans that acknowledges, LeBron's one of the 2 best basketball players of all time. There's no debate about it. There's no debate. He's one of the 2 best players of all time. I've said on this show for the last couple of months that if he can get through the Western Conference, beat a Clippers team, which I think is better than the Lakers, and beat that Brooklyn team in the NBA Finals, I'm calling LeBron James the GOAT. I'm sorry, I'm doing it. But got a long way to go till we get there. But that shot, first of all, let me just say this from the perspective as a Warriors fan. I don't know if it's the fact that I've seen LeBron do this to us in the past. The iconic shot when he was with the Miami Heat. It was a regular season game in February. I think it was the last game before the All-Star break. Golden State. This is before Golden State was a dynasty. I think that was Steph's first year as an All-Star. And they're playing the Miami Heat. At the time, the back-to-back champion Miami Heat, and LeBron hit a dagger 3 over Iguodala, basically at the buzzer to win it for the Heat. So it's like when he let it go, I got to be completely honest with y'all, I kind of knew it was going in. That's the God's honest truth. I was like, this is going in. And it did. So as far as that possession, obviously, it wasn't it was one of Golden State's best defensive possessions of the night. It was one of the Lakers' worst offensive possessions. It looked discombobulated. LeBron tried to find Caldwell Pope down in the paint. He was wrapped up down low, I think, by Wiggins, and he was somehow able to get it back out to LeBron. LeBron lets the 3 go from the Staples Center logo, I think from the E in center, and launched it from 30-plus feet, nothing but net, and that turned out to be the difference of the game, and the Lakers won the basketball game by 3 points. And there's actually, and I think this is kind of ridiculous personally, there's actually a debate as to whether that was a lucky shot. And I'm here to tell you, heck no, it wasn't a lucky shot. What are you talking about? End of the shot clock. LeBron knows he's got to get it off. I wish I had a picture of the shot we know what LeBron's shooting motion looks like. That didn't look awkward. That didn't look like he just threw some crap at the rim and it just banked in or something. Or it was an unnatural looking motion. That's LeBron's shooting motion that he used to make that 3-pointer. That's what his jump shot looks like. So to suggest that it was just lucky. But I think it was LeBron's. If it wasn't his first three, it was his second three. I think that was his only three of the night. And to say, oh, well, it was his only three, so that makes it lucky. Who says? He's shooting? Okay, so it's a deep three. Guys make those all the time. That's where Steph Curry's changed the game, is guys like LeBron are taking threes from that distance. But we've seen LeBron in his career plenty of times take threes. I know he did back-to-back times. I think it was a game against the Knicks, I think it was, last year. He took like back-to-back threes from the Lakers logo just inside half court and made both of them in a row. So it's not like this is Andre Drummond. If it was like Andre Drummond or something, I'd say, oh, yeah, it's a lucky shot. Andre Drummond can't shoot. LeBron, for what it's worth, shoots 36% from three. That's not great, but it's not terrible. It's a better shooting percentage from three than I believe Luka Doncic. So, you have that working for you. But I think the fact that people are questioning whether it was a lucky shot, it's his normal shooting motion. He's made plenty of threes like that before. I don't know how that's lucky. Now, I will say this about LeBron. There was obviously the controversial play with about 2 minutes left where LeBron's going for a dunk on Draymond, and Draymond, goes up and his hand catches LeBron James in the face. And LeBron said on that three that ended up winning it, he said he saw three rims. So he had double vision, triple vision. He saw three rims, and he said he shot the middle one. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit acting from Space Jam 2. Somebody needs to tell him that the Space Jam 2 that production has officially concluded, and the movie will be out in about 2 months. I think he kind of over-exaggerated that just a little bit. It's not like his eye was bloodshot or anything. His eye did look a little off, but it didn't look like bloodshot or like, oh man, like Draymond got him bad. I did not think that was a flagrant foul personally. It was a basketball play. It was a hard foul, no question about it, but I didn't think it was a flagrant. I heard them talking during the game. Steve Javie, who's the ABC likes to use him for, anytime they're reviewing a play. He's a former NBA official, 25-year vet, NBA referee. And he said there's no windup by Draymond Green going to LeBron's face. So I agreed with the call that it was not a flagrant foul on Draymond. But I think it goes back to, when it comes to this shot, this is micro, but the macro is, this is just yet another instance of people out there hating on LeBron James. The LeBron James haters out there who just don't want to give the man his fair share. It's that simple. I mean, I'm looking at two stats right here. So LeBron, they showed the stat when LeBron was being interviewed last night after the game. That was his 97. Let me make sure I'm reading this right. His 97th career game-tying or go-ahead winning shot in the final minute of a close game. That is second. In the last 25 seasons, the only player who has made more game-tying or game-winning shots is Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant has 101. LeBron is at 97 in the last 25 seasons. So this notion, and for the life of me, I don't understand it. The notion that, LeBron isn't clutch. It's one of those things where people say it, and I'm like, that's just not true. It like there's certain things, like if there's an opinion, it's like, okay, we can agree to disagree or we can debate that. This notion that LeBron James isn't clutch, it's flat out, it's false. It is not true. Because I'm looking at this stat here. LeBron has more buzzer-beating, game-winning shots in the playoffs than any player in the history of the game. And you're telling me that's not clutch? No player. Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Kobe Bryant, nobody. Damian Lillard even. Nobody has more buzzer-beating, game-winning shots in the playoffs than King James. And so people questioning, was that shot lucky? No, it was not lucky. And yes, LeBron James is clutch. But this is what he was talking about, though. When he was holding the trophy after the Lakers won the finals last year against the Heat, he said, I want my respect. Yeah. Listen, you hear former NBA players hate on LeBron. You hear, obviously fans, but, fans are divided on certain things. That's fine. That's all fun and games. You've heard coaches, at times hate on LeBron in the past. So that's all it is. It's just another example of people hating on greatness. That's I've made the same argument about Tom Brady. Like, people hating on Tom. Oh, he gets all the calls by the rep. I just enjoy greatness. Man's got 7 rings. Enjoy it. LeBron James got 4 rings. He's got 4 MVPs. He should have more than 4 MVPs, by the way. But this is one of the greatest players of all time. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. And I listen, I didn't enjoy it last night because, my team was the victim of his clutch gene. But against the other 28 teams in the NBA, just sit back and enjoy it. So that's my thoughts on that. The fact that people are questioning, oh, was it lucky? Come on, man. That's his normal shooting motion. He's taken many threes from that distance in the past. It wasn't like he was, say the ball was like falling out of bounds at the end of the shot clock and he grabbed it and just one hand threw it at the rim. I'd be like, oh my God, he got lucky on that one. No, it was LeBron's normal looking jump shot. And he knocked it down, and it was a clutch shot, and it was proved to be the difference in the game. So, man, what a game last night, though. I mean, that felt like a finals atmosphere. That's what it felt like. The defense was outstanding. The stars showed up. LeBron, obviously, the big shot at the end, but Steph was outstanding as usual last night. AD came on in the second half, but he's my biggest concern right now if I'm a Lakers fan, because it's like, again, he's hurt going into the playoffs. He doesn't have that dog in him. He's shown that time and time again. Is this going to have to be another instance of now a 36-year-old LeBron James in his 18th NBA season? Is this going to be another instance where he's going to have to carry a team to the championship? We'll have to wait and find out. Last year, we thought that'd be the case. No, AD showed up in the playoffs. Obviously, Rondo was there. Dwight Howard was there. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was huge in the finals. And I think in the Western Conference Finals too, Caruso played well. So the other guys are going to have to step up for the Lakers. It's a tough series that they've got coming up. I think game 1 is on Sunday against the Phoenix Suns. But I believe they'll win that series. I'm thinking in 5 or 6 right now. So there's that. People say, hey, the Suns were the real losers last night because, plenty of people think they could beat the Warriors, but you're going against the champs, LeBron James, AD. That's tough. To be the 2 seed and you got to go against the defending champs in round 1, that's a tough break. So I'll get back to basketball. I'm going to finish this talking about the Wizards and the Pacers tonight. But I actually got 2 baseball topics. I'm going to start with the Chicago White Sox. So the White Sox on Monday won over the Minnesota Twins 16-4. It was obviously, as the score indicates, it was a total domination by Chicago. But in the 9th inning, and how many times have I talked about this in this show? But I'm going to have to do this again. In the 9th inning, White Sox have a 15-4 lead, and a guy by the name of Yerwin Mercedes hits a home run on a 3-0 pitch. Obviously, I already told you the score is 15-4. That made it 16-4. And Tony La Russa, listen, one of the greatest managers of all time, no question about it. But Tony La Russa criticized his own player for hitting a home run. Now, let me give you some extra context on that particular home run. The Minnesota Twins, being that it was a blowout, being that they didn't want to, I guess, waste their bullpen on a game that had already been decided a long time ago, they put a catcher on the mound. And that catcher threw a 47-mile-an-hour pitch. 47 miles an hour on a 3-0 pitch. Right smack dab in the middle of the zone. And you expect him to just watch it? You expect him to say, okay, yeah, I'll just take it. How many 47-mile-an-hour pitches do guys get in Major League Baseball? Heck, minor league. Heck, high school. How many 47-mile-an-hours do you get? So if you get one, man, take advantage because you are not going to see those very often, certainly in the big leagues. And Yerwin Mercedes takes advantage, 3-0 pitch, goodbye. White Sox win, and Tony La Russa is criticizing his own guy. Here was his exact quote after the game. He said he was, quote, upset that Yerwin Mercedes hit a home run on a 3-0 count in the blowout win. This was his exact quote, Tony La Russa. Quote, he made a mistake. there will be consequence he has to endure here within our family. Now, that quote is in reference to a home run that his guy hit. Just say that out loud. Guy hits a home run off a catcher on a 47-mile-an-hour pitch, and there will be consequences by his own manager. You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. This is the equivalent in basketball. If a team is up 30, 35 points, and the last guy on the bench gets in the game, he's got a wide open three, and he knocks it down. And the coach criticizes him afterwards. That's the equivalent, basically. Like, can you imagine, say, I'm trying to think of, okay, Jared Dudley. I don't think Jared Dudley's the last guy on the Lakers bench, but let's just say for the sake of argument, Jared Dudley. Lakers are beating the Suns in game 1 by 30 points, and Jared Dudley comes in the last minute. He gets a wide open three, and he cashes it in the corner, nothing but net. And Frank Vogel goes in after the game saying there will be consequences for Jared Dudley for disrespecting the Phoenix Suns by hitting a wide open three. You see how ridiculous it sounds? That's what Tony La Russa is basically saying. By the way, he doubled down on it. He doubled down on it yesterday. I don't have the exact quote, but he doubled down and said, yeah, I stand by what I said. This is what's wrong with baseball. This, and I have said this till I've been blue in the face on this show. This, my friends, is what's wrong with baseball. A year ago, I think it was 2 years ago, baseball had the Major League Baseball had the campaign. They had like all their star players up there. They had Mike Trout. By the way, it sucks that Mike Trout's out for 6 to 8 weeks. That's just terrible. But they had Mike Trout, Aaron Judge. I think Mookie Betts was up there. Like, they had the best, the big name, Alex Bregman, the big stars in baseball. And the slogan was, let the kids play. And I think that actually came from King Griffey Jr., right? I mean, they called him the kid, right? So that was kind of their slogan. Where'd that go? Can we please bring that slogan back and try and incorporate that into 2021 Major League Baseball? Because this is ridiculous. This is a guy, and by the way, as someone pointed out, I posted about this on my social media, and somebody responded and said, yeah, this is, guys have incentives in their contracts. If you hit for 250 average or 300 average, or hit X amount of homers, or drive in X amount of runs, you will get you'll get you'll get more money, right? In the contract. Well, if it's right there, take it. And that's exactly what Yerwin Mercedes did. And he gets criticized by his manager for that. By the way, White Sox players push back on it. Excuse me, I didn't clarify. They didn't push back on Mercedes' home run. They pushed back on their manager's old and outdated talk about this. And then you see, and here's something else that it drives me crazy, people. It drives me crazy. The next day, Yerwin Mercedes, first at bat, the pitcher throws behind him to say, you don't disrespect the game like that. Well, you know what's disrespectful? You know what's disrespectful? Putting a catcher in to disrespect. You're not even putting a real pitcher. You're putting a guy who gets paid to be behind the plate, not on the mound, behind the plate. You put that guy on the mound, and you expect us to just stand idly by and go 1, 2, 3 and go into the bottom of the 9th inning. No. I mean, what are we talking about? Well, what happened in sports to playing till the end? Playing, in football, playing till the final whistle. In baseball, playing till the final out. Isn't that the point? Years ago, I believe it was Nick Saban's first year at Alabama. Alabama wasn't that great that year. They went like 6-6, and obviously the 6-6 days are long gone for Alabama football. But it was the Iron Bowl. They're playing Auburn, and Auburn was up 2 touchdowns with about a minute left, and they were in the red zone against Alabama. Game's over, and instead of running the clock out, Auburn ended up scoring a touchdown to make it a 3-score lead rather than a 2-score lead and settling for that win. And they asked Nick Saban about it after the game. He said, should have stopped him. We should have stopped him. If we don't want him, Cam Newton, in a game against the Titans during his MVP season, Panthers were up big. He scored a touchdown. He did one of his little dances. And a Titans linebacker came up and was, getting up his face and stuff. And a bunch of Titans players after the game were real salty about it, saying, oh, it was so disrespectful. And they asked Cam about it. He said, well, if you don't want me to dance, don't let me score. And ironically enough, that year the Panthers got to the Super Bowl and Cam wasn't doing too much dancing against the Denver Broncos. Why? They shut him down. They shut that Panthers offense down. It really is that simple. It's not easy, but I'm saying if you don't want that kind of pushback, stop them. There was so much pushback a couple of years ago with the U.S. women's team, our incredible U.S. women's team. At least they make up for our disgraceful U.S. men's soccer team. Just disgraceful. But the U.S. women's team beat, I think it was Thailand, it was like 11-0. I mean, it was awful. And after every goal, Megan Rapinoe was dancing, and Alex Morgan and Carly Lloyd, and they were all celebrating after every single goal. And the pushback was just like, oh my goodness, how disrespectful. I bet Thailand was honored to be on the field with our women's team. You play until the game is over. You play until the game's over. And so for your own manager to push back on you hitting a home run on a 47-mile-an-hour pitch off a catcher, and that's a bad thing? The unwritten rules in baseball, man, it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. Now, Sega baseball. I can't remember the last time I've had two baseball topics on my show. It's been a really interesting season to start. I will say, just to go and start, my Boston Red Sox are still leading the American League East, but hey, that's neither here nor there. That's not what I'm really here to talk about. What I am here to talk about is the fact that last night, Corey Kluber of the New York Yankees no-hit his former team, the Texas Rangers. And so, hey, it's a cool moment, no-hitter. But here's the problem. This is the first time in the history of Major League Baseball that there have been 6 no-hitters in a season before the month of June. This is the first time that's ever happened. And hey, baseball's got a over a century-long history. And this is the first time that has ever happened where we've had 6 no-hitters in a season before the month of June. And why is that? If you remember last year, or I think it was the year prior, a lot of pitchers, Justin Verlander, I think being being the ringleader for this, were complaining, oh, there's too many home runs. The ball favors the hitter, right? Which by the way, still doesn't make that much sense. If baseball is the only sport where you can be good 30% of the time and that be considered really, really good. It's because it's hard. It's a hard game. And so they changed the balls, they changed the baseballs, and we see the no-hitters. And while no-hitters are nice, I mean, I'm not like anti-no-hitters. I mean, it's a cool moment to see. Some of the greatest pitchers ever obviously have had no-hitters. But let's be honest. And baseball, by the way, I'm not picking on baseball. It's not the only sport that we believe this. Every sport you go to, you're not necessarily asking for a fireworks show, like say like a Chiefs-Rams game, 54-51 football game a few years ago on Monday Night Football. You're not necessarily wanting that, but you want offense. Like if you had to ask anybody, if you went to a Yankees fan and a Red Sox fan when the Yankees and Red Sox play, and you ask them, would you rather see a game that results in a 2-1 final score or a 10-9 final score? They'd say, 10-9. We got homers. We may have some errors in there. Like it's fun. It's exciting. It's interesting, right? There's a buzz in the crowd. So I will say this: I don't know why there's been a lot of criticism of Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball. I think he's a pretty good commissioner. I really do. I know there was a lot of criticism by players last year when they changed the extra inning rule, where when a game goes into extra innings, the team at bat gets an automatic runner at second base. What that does is prevents games from going 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 innings like a World Series game between my Boston Red Sox and the Los Angeles Dodgers went, where East Coast time, the first pitch was right around 8 o'clock, and the walk-off homer by Max Muncy was after 3 in the morning. Like, nobody wants to sit through basically 2 baseball games, back to back, 18 innings with a 3-2 final score. So that's something I think baseball needs to address. Like that, they need to say, look, this probably isn't the best idea in the world to change the baseballs. It's taking away offense. And pitchers say, well, that's not fair. Well, look. We all know the rules in football favors the offensive player. The rules in basketball favor the offensive player. That's just how it is. Like, people want to see offense. And listen, I get the frustration of the pitchers. I really do. I really understand that. And I'm sure they're loving these no-hitters. But it's not good for the product. Not an occasional no-hitter like a few a year. But I'm saying like it feels like every other night. So-and-so with a no-hitter against the Baltimore Orioles. It's like, wait, hold on, what? Like, no offense at all? I don't want to make it sound like I'm like, video game, we need 20 runs or something, but we want to see a little bit of action, don't we? So that's kind of my thoughts on that whole situation. Now, final topic of the night, Wizards, Pacers, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific time, TNT. Winner is the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. The loser, their season is over. So, yeah, the Indiana Pacers, who from tip to the final buzzer embarrassed the Charlotte Hornets the other night at home, took care of business and then some, as the 9 seed beating the 10 seed, putting themselves in this position. Dougie McBuckets, Doug McDermott was great. TJ McConnell, top 5 in the NBA in steals, actually top 2 in steals, along with Jimmy Butler, was excellent. Domantas Sabonis is one of the more gifted offensive players we have in the NBA. And they did some of this without Karis LeVert. And Karis LeVert is one of the better scorers that we have in the league. Can you imagine if he was still with the Nets? Of course, they already got the offense. They need defense, what they need. But I'll get into the Nets and my playoff predictions, by the way, on tomorrow's show. I'm looking forward to that. But you've got a team in Washington who I actually picked to beat Boston the other night. I felt like Boston had no momentum going into that game. I actually talked about, I think Brad Stevens may lose his job, not because he's not a great coach, because X's and O's wise, I'd go so far as to say Brad Stevens is a top 3 coach, not top 5, a top 3 coach in the NBA. But as the Steve Kerr quote said, in the NBA, guys know how to play basketball. I mean, they do. Once you get to the NBA, you know how the game works. You know how it works. You need a coach. You do. Let me make that clear. But guys know how to play the game. So, like Steve Kerr said, only about 10% of coaching is about X's and O's. The other 90% is about managing people. That's why Phil Jackson is the greatest coach of all time. That's why Greg Popovich might be 2 or 3. It's either him or Red Auerbach of the Celtics of long ago. So that's why I think Brad Stevens could lose his job at the end of the season. Not because he's not a great coach. He's just not a great manager of people. So I thought, okay, Celtics got no momentum going into this game. Washington, over the last month, has been playing great basketball. Russ has been doing his thing. Bradley Beal finished second to Steph Curry in scoring. You got some nice players. Hachimura, Alex Lim played pretty well against the Celtics the other night. And it was close. Washington actually had the lead going into halftime. I think it was 54-52. And then the second half, they just got blitzed. Tatum went off for 50, and the Celtics won by, I think, 18 points. And so I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of surprising to me, and it was disappointing because I wanted to see a Russell Westbrook versus Kevin Durant first round series. My goodness, would that have been fun? But my biggest concern for Washington, I have two concerns. My biggest concern is Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal does not look healthy at all. He pulled his hamstring in that one game a week and a half or so ago, and you saw during timeouts the sideline, he's obviously got the sleeve on his hamstring. He's constantly like massaging it, and so he's not healthy. He is definitely not 100% healthy. And my second concern, and I talked about this on the show last week, and it's here again. Playoff Russell Westbrook is nowhere near regular season Russell Westbrook. He did not play well at all against Boston. Now he has an opportunity to right those wrongs, to say, hey, enough with that. You know what? Let's get in the playoffs. Let's give ourselves a chance to play a great team, the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's give ourselves a chance to do that. I think this is an interesting game. More interesting than some people are giving it credit for. I'm actually pulling up the line right now. This is probably going to be about what the final line is going to be because we're less than an hour and a half before tip. Vegas favors Washington minus 3.5. Washington is at home, so that is huge. Washington's been a really good home team. They're favored minus 3.5, and as we all know, in Vegas, the home team gets 3 points. So Vegas thinks this is nip and tuck. They think it's going to be close. I'm actually going to go with the Indiana Pacers in an upset. I think the 9 seed beats the 8 seed. They get in the playoffs, match up with the 76ers. Obviously don't think they'll beat Philly, but I do think they will beat Washington. It's highly likely they won't need an offensive explosion like they had the other night against Charlotte, scoring 141 points. But if their offense is, half as good, half as efficient as it was the other night, I don't think Washington stands a chance. Washington is a good defensive team. They really turned up their defense in the second half of the season post All-Star break. But I think the key to this game is pretty simple. It's Russell Westbrook. Bradley Beal is going to be limited. He just is. That hamstring is clearly bothering him. Russ, you've had a lot of playoff failures in your career. This isn't a playoff game. This game isn't going to define your career. It's not. It's a playing game. It is not going to define Russ's career. But it would certainly help. At least slightly. Just a little bit. Help his reputation, at least as of now, to win this game. So I don't think that'll happen. Not saying Russ is going to be trash or anything like that. Maybe he comes out and has a huge performance. We know he's going to shoot a lot. That's the thing we do know. He's going to shoot a lot. Now, hopefully he's not jacking up too many threes because he is a bad three-point shooter. It's actually gotten worse as his career has wore on. But if he's the great distributor as he is, if he can get, we all know he's capable of going off for 20 assists. If he can get even 15 assists, 15 in between 15, 20, it'll definitely give Washington a really good chance to win the game. And again, they're great defensively. So I think for that reason, it is close, but Indiana's offense ultimately wins out. And I think Sabonis takes over at the end, and the Pacers win a close game over the Washington Wizards. I'm going to go 109 to 106. 109 to 106. Pacers get in the playoffs, rounding out the East bracket. And again, I'm going to predict the first round of the playoffs tomorrow. We got some really good first round matchups. You got Knicks, Hawks. By the way, the Knicks are going to have 15,000 people in Madison Square Garden. So here we go. The Garden is going to be rocking. You know Spike Lee's going to be there, as always, as he is for every big New York Knicks game. I'd definitely give Atlanta a shot to win the series. They played excellent basketball since they inserted Nate McMillan in as the head coach. Nate McMillan's an excellent coach. Indiana should have never fired him. I've said that in the show for a while. He's as good as they come. Trey Young's been playing well. John Collins. So Atlanta's got a good basketball team. Knicks with Julius Randle, who I think is most improved player easily, with the guy who I think should be coach of the year, Tom Thibodeau. Derrick Rose has really done a good job for him since he left Detroit to go there. So that's probably the most intriguing series of the first round. You got Denver and Portland. What a series that'll be. So you got Clippers, Mavericks. You got Bucks, Heat. Like, you've got some really, really interesting matchups in the first round. So I'm looking forward to it. NBA playoffs 2021. Here we go. Can't wait. So with that is all the time we have for today's show. Thank you all so much for watching on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. Thank you to our podcast audience for watching, or excuse me, for listening on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and Anchor, as well as wherever you listen to your podcast. Hope everybody has a great evening. Please catch us tomorrow, as always, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here, wherever you're watching. So have a great evening. God bless you all. Peace out.